we have an inflation problem in Nigeria. You see, between the year 2023 and 2024, the prices of things has gained a 219% increase. Not just in foodstuff or in a few amenities. No, every single thing you buy within the country Nigeria, every single thing has gained a price increase, and it is affecting the economy in a lot of ways. And at the same time, is it good? Is it bad? Are we going to ever recover from it? And even if we are going to recover, what is the process should be for going to
September 2023 and February 2024, the prices of each of these food items is set to increase on a weekly basis.
It's affecting. I don't really need to say most of the things affecting. You already know. But before that, let's get this is like a brief intro. Nigeria's inflation, as said by the government, has reached a 28-year high rate, and it does not seem to be coming down anytime soon. Don't be scared, it can still come down, but not anytime soon. But first of all, what is inflation? You see, inflation is the general and continuous increase of goods and services coupled with a decline in the purchase value of money over a period of time. That is just the simple thing about what inflation is. And what this means is that what I can buy with this 200 naira or with this 500 naira 1 year ago, even coupled together, I may not be able to buy the same thing again. That's just it. That is the general thing about inflation. You see, the thing about inflation is that in some cases, inflation can be actually good. Yeah, you do not hear me wrong. In some cases, inflation can be good. And what that means that, you see, in every year, there is based on consensus, there's a 3% increase in inflation every year. So, if you are anything you can buy for like 1,000 naira 10 years ago, you can't actually buy that same thing for 1,000 naira today. It will have gained a 30% interest on whatever. So like you buy it for about 3,000 naira or 30,000 naira as in today's money. That's also every year price of things are actually getting a 3% increase globally. So inflation is actually good, and some government all over the world actually have inflation targets whereby they want to reach, because the reason why inflation is actually good is because when things are actually a bit high, not too high but a bit high, people will see more jobs, people will be willing to spend more, it provide more jobs and give government the ability to be able to do more social amenities and stuff. That is what inflation is. But at the same time, on the contrary side of inflation, there's also deflation. So what is deflation? Deflation is good, but it's just like inflation but the reversal, whereby the price of things are so low, you can just take a few hundreds and you can buy yourself a house. That is not inflation and of deflation. And it is much more difficult to recover from a deflation than from inflation. Countries like US and Japan, it took them years, decades to be able to recover from low levels of deflation. Deflation is actually bad and at the same time good, but when it becomes so low, it is much more difficult, because when it is very very low, it reduces spending. People will spend less. It will make companies make less money. It will reduce less spending power. People will not get attracted to any form of spending, and it will be difficult to recover any form of money from anybody, because nobody is willing to pay anything for it. But let us just come to stress about something. How come Nigeria is in a 28-year inflation? And there's not like as if there's no hope for us. Even though there's hope, we haven't seen it yet. How come? You see, according to the National Bureau of Statistics in 2024, they say that the inflation rate in Nigeria has gotten to a 33.95% high. And this is just based on a few things that happened, especially when we were in 2023. All countries actually experienced a lot of loss, but Nigeria still couldn't recover. A lot of countries are recovering, but Nigeria is more like in this stocked form, and that is because of a certain few things. First of all, let's talk about the most common amenities that we often do. Food. You see, agriculture in Nigeria accounts for 25.18% of food, like of the entire GDP of the country. 25.18% of the GDP of the country is from agriculture, and there's one thing I want you to know, a bit of statistics here. In 2019, Nigerians spent an average of 56.56% on food per 100,000 they gain. So if as a Nigerian you are earning 100,000 naira, you are spending 56,000 naira on food per month. That's if you are earning 100,000 naira. So if you are earning something like 5,000 naira, 15,000 naira, 30,000, you should know like you are spending half of your salary on food. But then it gets worse. In 2023, you started spending 59% of our money on food. So it's moved from 56 to 59, and it's actually increasing because even as at 2024 now, it has gotten to 60% actually. Just a 1% increase. It has gotten to 60, and it's not like as if food is the only thing you actually focus on. It's not the only thing, but food alone has taken more than half of the entire thing you actually earn. And is affecting and also in the entire inflation sector, agriculture alone, food alone is 40.66% of the entire thing. Food is one of the major causes of inflation, and it's not like as if it's just like the cost, probably because it's too high. Why is food prices high? Because that is actually the major thing. Why is food prices high? Well, it is because of insecurity. You see, over the past 3 years, farmers from the states in which we often buy goods from, or in which they often send goods to the main part of the country, have been attacked seriously, which leads to most farmers actually leaving their own farmlands behind and moving forward to more like greener pastures whereby they can see things to buy for most of, just like moving on, and most of us just like didn't see anything to buy, and there was no actual food for us. And this is why I'll take you back, guys, back to economics. I didn't do economics in school, but I'll bring a bit of economics here. You see, when there is an increase in demand and there's an increase in supply, everything will balance. If that's the way the country was, food prices will be this high. But there's a enormous increase in demand and there's a low amount of supply. That is why food prices are high. And I can hope that you guys are getting the point now. But that is not just the only cause. Insecurity is not just the only cause on why food prices are actually high. Another major cause on why food prices are actually high is infrastructure. You see, planting food or growing crops for the country is good. That's a different case. Supplying those food after you planted, after you've harvested it, supplying those food to the destination is something else. So I think we can actually see now there's actually big difference. Two different things right now. Planting is something, then taking those foods to where you're actually going to sell it is a different thing. And that is another thing I would say that we actually need to talk about. Infrastructure. We don't have that. It's not that as if we don't have that, we have that, but it's not enough. Bad roads, not enough form of transportation, everything is just lagging and dragging behind. And to make the infrastructure even worse, not just worse, but like a bit bad, a bit lag behind. You see, in March 2023, the government in Nigeria, the current presidency now, actually removed subsidy on fuel price, which then gave a sudden hike in the price of fuel, making transportation of food from one place to another even more difficult and expensive. And that is another reason why food is actually really, really expensive. Another reason that also contributes to this inflation, not just for food now, that contributes to this inflation is the exchange rate. You see, the naira over the past few years has been finding it difficult to stand with the dollar. And as at 2024, as at today, $1 is equal to 1,600. This is just a rough estimate. In some places you see it too. In some places you see that different form. In some places you see that 1,600, and in some places you can see it as 1,500. Yes, like you see, 1,500 is equal to $1. That's how it is right now, and it is actually affecting us because one of the ways at which it is affecting us is that companies international companies that are actually within the country that are supposed to produce for us, because they found that the economy is going down, there's inflation, they actually left, abandoned the country and left, moved to other countries that were more like profitable for them. And so, since we couldn't afford those goods and services that those companies are providing for us locally again, what do? Yes, we have to order. And when we order, what are we doing? We are causing inflation. How are we causing inflation? We are giving out money to receive mostly perishable goods, small things that are actually useless, and I think it's very, very bad. And when I'm talking about things that are actually useless and very, very bad, I'm also talking about the government expenditure. You see, the government expenditure is going well, at least since the time our new president has gone there. It's actually going well, though there's a bit of complaint, but things actually have to be, for us to leave this inflation, things have to go back. Like, it will be very, very hard, and I mean strict hard, and after the strict hard process, then to become good. If not, if you continue going like this, it will not end like Zimbabwe. Sorry, Zimbabwe, but it will not end like them. It will be very, very good. Even though they've gotten out of it, but it was really, really tough. And this is what I'm talking about when I say the government expenditure. Though the government are trying to be more like increase tax, do stuff like that, but it is not actually paying off. One of the major things I would say that the government are not focusing on is building local industries. Like, it's more like a shame when you hear that the government are actually importing things like toothpicks, pencils, like sachet tomatoes. You know, when you hear stuff like that, it's like, why can't we make them locally? That's actually the major problem. If these things were made locally, we won't have to be converting our own normal currency naira here into dollars to buy things from outside. That's just the major thing there. That's it. And if we are to focus on those things, then only can we be able to get a glimpse on if we can, that we can actually leave this form of inflation. And I hope you are getting the point. So let us not talk about it fully now. Can we ever recover from this inflation? Whatever you are thinking in your mind, I think that should be the right answer. If you are thinking yes, if you are thinking no, I think that should be the right answer, because it's really, really tough. But if we ever want to recover from this inflation, the first thing I would say that the government should actually do is focus on the insecurity and the infrastructure, especially the infrastructure and the insecurity. Those two things are the major things. Once the government can focus on those things, fine, then we can start talking about, because if they don't focus on insecurity, we won't be able to get enough farmers back to the farm to plant for us, and if they don't focus on infrastructure, we won't be able to get goods from the farm to the market, to our table, and to our belly. Yeah, we can actually get out of this, but it will take the government to implement tight policies like limiting spending, increasing the price of loans, of loan interest, to make people stop buying things like that, reduce the form of import, so we won't be able to import things like that. And so we just make sure that it is really, really tough. Nigeria is at 38% inflation, and we are getting closer to what they call hyperinflation, which is between 50% and above inflation. I pray we don't get there, but if it ever happens, I don't want to talk about it. It will be very, very bad, because things will be hard. That's when you be hearing like $1 will be got to value $1 million. You will never be able to. So as today, which is October 2nd, I want to tell you, things are actually going to be good in Nigeria, but I will just give you a bit of advice. Save the little you can. You don't have to spend money on this. Save the little you can. Think well, invest, so that I know between you. You think every day na anything. No, Shemi. Don't spend money all the time. Think well, invest well, and always keep on praying for Nigeria. The prayers are actually good. Thank you, and also happy independence in Nigerians.